Okay, so welcome to our monthly, weekly pulse on Ironfish. This is where we give updates on the protocol. These updates are mostly technical, but I think we'll try to kind of in the future maybe lighten up a tiny bit. But right now, Ironfish is obviously in its second testnet phase, and we're very acutely focused on making sure that the Ironfish experience is good. And so a lot of the things that we're focusing are on optimization, making sure it's running smoothly, making sure that the deposits work. And so we are actually actively building out more and more stats of how we monitor the health of the network. So first, I would like to thank everyone who is participating in the Ironfish testnet. I cannot say that enough. There's some vanity stats that I want to throw out. So right now we have 5,800 nodes online at the same time. So you can check this at stats.ironfish.network. All these stats are available that I'm about to go through. At its peak, we were roughly 11,000 nodes online in one time. And so the 11,000 number to me is really important because we've talked to a bunch of other people, and it appears that that number put us in the largest testnet for a layer 1 project that we are aware of. And to give you a bit more perspective, the entire Bitcoin network is roughly 15,000 nodes online. Ethereum is roughly 3,000 to 4,000 nodes online. So even though we dropped from 11,000 to the 5,800 number that we have today, it's still an incredibly large testnet, and we're kind of aware as to why people have dropped off. And the reason why people dropped off is kind of a symptom of our own success in a way. So we have kind of noticed a degraded user experience as the chain started to grow. So roughly when we were 11,000 nodes, we also hit our all-time high of over 300,000 transactions per day. And so this puts us, obviously this isn't incentivized, so I'm not trying to hide that fact. But from purely kind of a scalability and stats purposes, Bitcoin is roughly at that number. We're about quarter of transactions per day for Ethereum, for instance. And if you look at, Zcash shielded transactions, I think since Zcash has launched, they have had like roughly 900,000 shielded transactions. And we do that several days. So I think we have roughly 15 million transactions since we started the second phase of Ironfish. So these are honestly really good numbers. We have seen transaction number go off. So these stats that I'm talking about now, you can find them at explore.ironfish.network/charts. So we're pretty transparent about how everything's going, so you can check it out yourself. So we fell from like roughly 300,000 transactions to 180, and I think our average is 132. And again, it's a bit of a symptom of our own success because as the chain started to grow, we have experienced some degraded experience. And so a lot of the projects that we have been working on since have been highly focused on making sure that Ironfish is stable, that we are focusing on optimization and performance. And so internally, we have built a ton more metrics or dashboards to monitor exactly how the health of the node is doing. And we are kind of like laser focused on making sure that things like memory is going down, that network bandwidth is going down, and so on. In terms of even though we're a privacy preserving protocol, we're very, very transparent about exactly what is happening at Ironfish. Our roadmap, we do update it quite frequently. You can check it out at ironfish.network/roadmap. So if people have questions about, when are you guys launching mainnet, I would recommend you look at the roadmap first. It is a live document, so we do update it quite often. And so, we have kind of laid out all the necessary features that we want to work on before mainnet launch. And so if you want to get a more accurate kind of date or time frame when we're going to mainnet launch, I would recommend looking at the roadmap because, again, we need to go through all their engineering tasks before we can actually do that. So with that, I do want to hand it off to some of our engineers who have done incredible features, especially this week. Or I guess this month that have targeted improving the degraded experience that we're experiencing as the chain is growing. So first off, I am going to hand it off to Daniel, who has been working with Derek. Actually, he'll be speaking a bit afterwards on improving our peer-to-peer gossip algorithm. So I'll let you take it away.
Thanks, Elena. Yeah, so as Elena was saying before, we had a huge number of transactions in the network, and anyone who's run node in verbose mode sees just like the large number of transactions that the node is processing from peers at any given time. And so we undertook this big project to reduce that network usage by only sending transaction hashes to peers instead of full transactions. And we just released that in the latest release. And looking at the telemetry numbers, it looks like that has reduced network usage for users on the new release by about 80%. So if you guys haven't updated to the newest version, I would definitely recommend that. Even on our nodes that we're hosting on AWS, we're seeing a lot more nodes are just running a lot more smoothly, and that's most likely due to just not having to process full transactions every time a peer sends them to you. So yeah, that was a culmination of a long project, and hopefully as more and more people update, we're about at 50% updated to the latest version, and we'll see that translate to the entire network instead of just upgraded nodes. So I'll keep you updated on that. But yeah, that's what me and Derek have been working on and what we just released. So I think next.
Sure. Oh, I do want to jump in a tiny bit before we move on. So I don't know if you can share, but can you share a little bit about some of the bandwidth reduction that you're seeing with this new upgrade?
Yeah. So if you look at, we were looking at telemetry from basically network usage for messages sent from a node. So if the node is on the new version, instead of sending full transactions to all of its peers, it'll send the transaction hash to the majority of the peers. And the hash is such a small percentage of the transaction itself. Depending on the transaction, it could be anywhere from like 90% less to, I don't know, 95% less. So just replacing those messages is a big reduction in bandwidth. And then that also means that if you're receiving transactions, you don't receive the full transaction multiple times. You'll probably only receive the full transaction a few times, and the rest of them will be just transaction hashes. So that on the receiving end, that reduces bandwidth by a lot as well. Is there anything else you wanted to touch on, Elena, or you wanted me to touch on?
No, I think that's good. I just wanted to, I don't know, do like a humble brag of how much this new feature is going to improve our networking. And a lot of the kind of performance issues that we're seeing, a lot of it is due to our networking. And so like I'm very, very excited for this feature to be fully rolled out to our network. So please, please upgrade your nodes because you are going to see a direct improvement. So pretty excited about that. Cool.
Yeah.
And I think we can move on to our next speaker.
I'll just say one more thing on that. Like not just the network usage, but CPU usage of the node is also definitely going to be reduced by that, just not having to process the network transactions. That'll free up a lot of CPU. That's what we're seeing with our nodes too. So yeah, pretty exciting. So next, I think Hugh is going to talk about the snapshot feature, which is also very exciting. This is the first time personally I've had my node synced in probably 3 weeks from this feature. So you.
As we've been talking about all of these transactions on the network, one of the effects of that is that it very hard to keep code in sync. So late last week, we released a new feature, a new CLI command will down a snap of the chain. That command is chain download. Right now, we're working on kind of publishing regular snapshots or publishing snapshots at a regular case. But there's a snapshot available through that chain download command.
Yeah, in case I think maybe your audio was a little bit choppy, but in case anyone didn't hear that, there is a new command to basically download a snapshot of the blockchain. And that command is chain download. So that'll download a snapshot that's close to synced.
Cool. Thanks,
I
Hugh.
think
Thanks, Daniel.
yeah.
Yeah, I mean, that's super exciting stuff. Like, syncing is a big problem for a lot of people right now, so that's very helpful. The transaction gossip is huge. So I guess next up, as some of you have probably seen, there's a channel called Wallet2 Testers, where we are testing the migrations and just general usage of the new Wallet 2.0 project, which we've talked about sort of previously, but in case anybody who isn't aware, we're doing some major refactors of the wallet project, or like the accounts and wallet code. As many people have witnessed, after you've done so many deposits and things like that, it gets very slow to even just check your balance, right? So we've made dramatic performance improvements on that. We're getting very close to shipping it. I don't want to promise a date yet, but very soon. We're all very excited to get out, and we're all working diligently on making sure it's ready. And then on top of that, the other project that I've been working on with Rohan and Elena is actually research into supporting multi-asset on-chain, like custom assets. This can be used for any number of things. We're still kind of in the research phase, but we're making good progress, and we should be able to begin writing code here pretty soon. So it's going to be such an exciting project. But yeah, beyond that, I will hand it over to Derek, who's going to talk about some of the stuff he's been working on.
Awesome. Thanks, Matt. Hey, everyone. I'm Derek. As Daniel mentioned a bit, I've been working on block gossip for a while. I got the messages in place, and I got some handlers for those taken care of. And then I switched over to helping work with Daniel to get the transaction gossip worked out. And shortly after this, he's going to come over with me, and we're going to help finish up and get the block gossip work. The block gossip work I've discussed a little bit in the past, but I'll kind of cover it again. The main improvement I think we're going to see here is that you won't have to download the transactions off of a block if you already have them in your mempool. You'll be able to just insert the transactions in the block straight from the mempool. Since the transactions are majority of the size of the block, probably at least 90% of the block size, this has the potential to make downloading a new block be almost free if you've already been receiving the transactions. So yeah, pretty excited about that. We've been happy with the transaction rollout, so block transaction propagation rollout, so hopefully the block should come shortly. One other thing that we've been working on the past couple of days has been reducing the size of the mempool by filtering out transactions that have spends that are already in the chain. Now, these transactions wouldn't ever actually end up on blocks, but we didn't have any code in place to filter them out from showing up in transactions in your node itself. So that was resulting in keeping around a bunch of transactions that wouldn't ever end up being useful. Eventually they would expire and get kicked out, but when we filter them out as they come in, it, for one, prevents resending out those transactions to other people. So it's going to save a bunch of bandwidth in the network. And two, it also helps us give a more accurate view of how many transactions are actually waiting to go onto a block. So with these changes, we see like the actual number of transactions waiting to go onto a block is usually around 200 or less. And then as soon as a new block comes in, we'll see all the transactions drop to near zero, which indicates that like most of them got picked up and put on a block. And so that should be really nice. We're really excited for that to go out in the next release and probably reduce the number of transactions pinging around the network quite a lot. We're seeing the mempool down by to about 10% of the size that it currently is. That's going to be really cool. One more thing I want to add too is that we've got a bit behind on reviewing community PRs. So I'm going to try to catch up on those. I don't really like to let them sit around for a while. I know we've mentioned trying to have a better response time for those, and we put some effort into making it easier for people to communicate or contribute and pick up some of these issues hanging out. So I want to make sure that like if people do put in the effort to fix bugs and submit PRs, that we actually are responsive in getting them in. Yeah, so that's it for me. I'm going to turn it over to Lawrence to talk a bit about some of the issues we're seeing recently and what our plans are for them.
Yeah, hey everyone. So I'm here to talk a little bit about some of the great feedback we've seen from testers, Ironfish community, people using nodes and running Ironfish, the Ironfish client. We've seen a whole bunch of issues that have come up. One thing you may have seen if you filed any of these issues is I've gone through and personally verified, and we'll talk about what that means in a minute, but verified or closed, a number of issues that have been hanging out. Our goal here is to organize everything and to address performance and general usability issues that people have seen with Ironfish as you've been testing the client. So I'm going to quickly go over some of the things we've seen. There's a number more. If you're curious, you can look at our GitHub issues list, which is now current. But I will go over some of the bigger ones that I know are affecting the community. We've actually had a few fixed through some of the changes that we just discussed with the team. We've seen, especially with the transaction gossip update from a few days ago. If you aren't on it, definitely you should see some performance upgrade by moving on to the newest version. So that's really exciting. And we look to have a number of releases on that same vein where we really focus on performance updates with the release. The things that we've seen are, and the first one's actually interesting because it's sort of a dual user experience / performance issue, is that sometimes some people have had issues with deposits not seeming like they've been being processed. And part of that is performance based, and that sometimes just the deposit command is slow or unresponsive, and that should be fixed mostly by the work that Matt just talked about with Wallet 2.0. The other side of that is a little more subtle, which is we have noticed that the fees that you have to, when you do a deposit, it does a default fee of 1 OR. And we've noticed that as we've gotten more transactions, which is great, some of our miners that actually process the transactions end up processing transactions with greater fees than just 1 OR. So what happens is the transaction goes through, everything seems fine, it doesn't get picked up and put on the blockchain by a miner. So that's something we're addressing in a different way, which is going to be having the deposit command be a little more dynamic in terms of fees. The other one that's big is out of memory issues. We've seen sort of unresponsive nodes, people talking about I left this on overnight and I came back and it wasn't responding, and that's obviously a problem. It's probably due to some sort of memory leak. We are investigating thoroughly on where that could be. It's something I want to make sure that everybody is aware we're looking at actively. And then other ones are node nullifier. That pops up from time to time. We see those in a lot of reports. Usually that's a symptom of something, and it leaves sort of data in a state where it causes that error. And also we have, just a general Jason, who is on vacation this week, otherwise would probably speak about this much more passionately myself. But we are always looking at the UX of Ironfish. We are very proud of the fact that it's relatively easy to spin up and run an Ironfish node versus some other crypto projects out there. And we're always reviewing that process to ensure that we keep it that way as we build new features. Like, one of the things that happens with projects is you start out with good intentions and you just start slapping features on there, and all of a sudden it becomes a little harder to use. So keeping an eye on that. As always, if you have issues, you can submit them through GitHub. We are now actively triaging those issues and working through PRs, as Derek mentioned, and Adi's going to talk about that now. We've just revamped the whole process.
Hi, thanks, Lawrence. Okay. Hi, everyone. I speak to you all every day, I guess. So, as Lawrence and Matt mentioned, that we have now taken it upon to respond back to your bug submissions and pull requests much more quickly. So, we have a 1 week response time at the most for pull requests and a 3-day response time for any bugs that have been submitted. So, one thing I want to mention here is earlier there might not been a more clear vision on how you should do this, but now we have announced, and I have just shared a link of the announcement in the monthly pulse chat right now on where you could get started. So if you're a programmer looking to get started, if you like finding out bugs, or if you found bugs while using the network, then I suggest that you submit them through GitHub, so that if at all it is something that we've not come across before and it helps us make the network more efficient, you earn 100 testnet points. So this is a good way to earn points as a bug reporter. Second is pull request. So you earn points, 1 point for a transaction, but if you submit a pull request, the range for rewards for pull requests range from 250 to 1000 testnet points, depending on the magnitude or the scale of the pull request, right? So if you are skilled in these, or if you're looking to get into this arena, just look at the announcement that we've made recently and read out the guide that has been set up. One more thing I want to add is we have created a discussions forum. The link for that also is in the announcement. And the third thing is that also has a list of a board where we have listed good first issues. So if you are overwhelmed by the scale of the network and you understand programming but you're not sure where you can get started, so there are these issues that we've marked as good first issue, which would be good blocks to get started with. And as you grow, you can explore further and make better or more contributions. So here I'd like to give a shout out to WD021 Scackrook. There's also another community member who built something. 1 second. Contributors. So I think, what is his name? Mr. McTavish something. Yeah. So a bunch of people have been contributing, and we really value your contribution. One thing I want to add here is, if you are creating a PR, just ensure that first you are doing that to resolve an issue, right? There was a discussion recently on the contributors forum about this. So yeah, just that. Kindly read the guidelines once, so that you are better equipped at submitting pull requests or bugs that help you earn testing points. Also, another thing about ambassador program, we do not have any update on it right now. As we do, we shall definitely inform through announcements or through the ambassadors channel. So yeah, that's all from my side. Thank you guys.
Okay, awesome. Thank you everyone for all the updates. I think we're kind of ready to close this out. If you have any questions, please ask them in the monthly Pulse channel. If we see the questions come in after we close this out, we'll still try and answer them. So, don't be too concerned that we won't get to you. So in terms of some last closing thoughts, we are aggressively hiring, kind of what Aditya said. If you are the type of person who loves to write code for decentralized, distributed systems that are privacy preserving, if you're curious about zero knowledge proofs, if you're curious about scaling, a Web3 product, or again, a decentralized system, we would love to speak to you. So we are currently really aggressively hiring for backend or protocol engineers, as well as front end engineers, and pretty much anyone in between. If this is something that you want to work on, please let us know. We're also hiring for some non-engineering roles as well. We're actively looking for a marketing person. If you are the type of person that loves to produce content for how to make Web3 products more understandable, or if you are the type of person that wants to figure out how to scale marketing for a Web3 product that is pre-mainnet launch, if that is exciting to you, please apply. We're definitely looking for people like you. And yeah, I think with that, I think we're kind of ready to close this off. Again, I cannot stress how thankful we are for such a great community. So many people have jumped into our Discord channel and have told us that our community is one of the healthiest that they've seen. That people have been mostly focusing on asking really healthy questions about how Ironfish works, about the tech, about how we make it better. And so again, I am just so thankful for the community that we have built. So one of the questions that I'm just seeing is, could the team share any details of how they plan to bridge the privacy layer with other cryptos? So that's a great question. Matt has kind of shared a little bit of one of the features that we're currently working on, which is multi-asset support. So right now we have a really great privacy foundation where every single transaction is fully private using zero-knowledge proofs. What Matt and Rohan is working on is, how do we expand this protocol to support multiple assets? And so that's actually the precursor to this question of, well, how do we support bridges? So once we are able to support multi-assets, we can then think about how do we support bridges. And that will allow a user to transfer an asset from one chain to Ironfish. So you can imagine something like a wrapped DAI or another wrapped Ethereum asset on Ironfish, where that asset would get the benefit of the strongest, best privacy that our industry has to offer. So someone also asked, what are the timeline for mainnet? Again, I think the best resource there is the roadmap. It's really hard to predict because we're working really hard, but we also want to make sure that we ship something good. So we are actively making sure that performance of Ironfish is good. We're focusing on optimizations and so on. So if you are curious about how much we're progressing, I would definitely check out the roadmap. It is being updated quite frequently by Lawrence, who's our engineering manager. And if you think you have the skills to help us progress on this roadmap faster, if you're a developer, please apply. We're hiring. We're mostly hiring Canada and United States, but we are looking into other countries, especially if people are willing to work time zones that are somewhat compatible with the United States time zones. So yes, please apply. Okay, I think that's it in terms of questions. Adi, do you want to jump in here?
Yeah, a quick shout out to the folks who've been creating design and posting articles on Medium and making quizzes and stuff. So thanks a lot for doing that, engaging with others and doing some sort of creative puzzles and everything. So that's really cool. And I would love to, and we really appreciate it. And everyone does, I guess, in the community. And thanks again. Thank you.
Awesome. And I think with that, we can close it off. Happy Friday, everyone. Again, thank you so much. Please continue giving us feedback. We're continuously making Ironfish better. Cool. And I think I'll close it out with that. Until next time. Bye.
Have a good weekend, everyone. Thank you. Thank you for attending.
Thanks, everyone.